Humans, we became the top of the food chain because we're big brains. We invented language, cities, airplanes, taxes, nuclear weapons, TikTok dances, and somehow LinkedIn? But have you ever wondered, did we get a big brain first, or did we stand up first? Like, did some 900 IQ genius ape wake up one day and go, yeah, I think walking upright on two legs is better, just trust me on this, bro? Or did some small brain ape just stand up and actually start one of the most important plot lines in Earth history? Well, for a long time, scientists wondered the same thing because it seemed obvious, right? Humans are smart, therefore, we humans walk on two legs. Clean story. And scientists wanted that story to be true so badly that in 1912 they got completely catfished. Some guys in England discovered a skull they called Piltdown Man. Big human-like brain case attached to an ape-like jaw. Exactly what everyone wanted to see. Proof the brain got big first. Body still playing catch-up. The world believed it for 40 years until 1953 when someone finally examined it properly. It was, well, a hoax. A medieval human skull duct taped to an orangutan jaw. Teeth filed down and stained brown. Somebody Frankensteined a fake ancestor. An entire scientific field said, "Looks good to me, bro," for 4 decades. Why? Because it told them what they already believed. People don't see what's true. They see what they're expecting, and everyone was expecting the brain to come first. But then we found Lucy. So, meet your well, you kind of get the point, ancient relative. Lucy was Australopithecus afarensis, something hard to pronounce, and hopefully I did not butcher that. Lucy lived around 3.2 million years ago, and she gave scientists a massive clue because Lucy had a tiny brain. Not forget where I put my keys tiny, like actual tiny. Her brain was roughly a third the size of a modern human brain. If modern humans have the deluxe family size brain meal, well, Lucy unfortunately had the kids meal. But here's the crazy part. Lucy walked on 2 legs. Standing came first, big brain came later. The first major step towards becoming human is not a genius ape discovering philosophy, is a small hairy creature standing up like, why am I vertical? Now, how do we know Lucy walked upright? Because bones are snitches. Bones tattletale on you millions of years after you die. First, her pelvis. In apes that walk on all fours, the pelvis is shaped differently. Lucy's was shorter, broader, bull-like, built to support organs while standing upright. Her hips were saying, I stand like a person. Then there's the femur, the big thigh bone. In humans it angles inwards, towards the knee. Bring your knees under your body so you don't waddle side to side. Lucy had that inward angle too. Her legs were built for 2, not 4, not knuckle walking, 2. And then the skull. In 4-legged animals, the spine connects to the back of the skull. In upright walkers, it connects underneath. Your head balances on top of your body like a meat lollipop. Lucy had that too. But she also had ape-like features, long arms, curved fingers, a small brain. She probably still climbed trees, so picture this. Not a modern human, not a chimp, more like a weird hybrid ancient halfway in between. Walk around on 2 legs and climb a tree when things got sketchy. Nature was sure beta testing humans. And Lucy wasn't the only evidence. There are also Laetoli footprints, fossil footprints in Tanzania, preserved in volcanic ash 3.6 million years ago. Imagine some ancient human relatives walking through wet ash like, ew, this ground feels weird. Then a volcano covered the footprints, and millions of years later, scientists found them. The footprints show big toes lined up with the rest of the foot, like humans, not apes. Ape feet are hand-like, with big toes that stick out for grabbing branches. These prints say someone was walking on 2 legs here before big human brains existed. So we have skeleton evidence, footprints evidence, all pointing to the same direction. Standing came first, big brain came later. But now, the obvious question is, well, why? Why would an ape stand up? Scientists don't think there was one single reason. Evolution is not a clean plan. Evolution is throwing spaghetti at a wall for millions of years and seeing which noodle survives. There are a few strong ideas. The The first one is energy. Walking on two legs is more energy efficient than four, especially over longer distances. If your environment is changing and food is more spread out, saving energy is a huge deal. In nature, calories are survival, not something you complain about on a diet app. If you could walk further using less, you had an edge. Hands. Once your hands aren't needed for walking, they can do other things. Carry food, carry babies, hold tools eventually, doom scroll TikTok. At first, it was probably simple. Bring snacks back to others. And that matters because survival isn't always, can you fight a tiger? Sometimes it's, can you carry these snacks without dying? Third one is vision. Standing up lets you see further. In more open environments, being taller helps you spot predators, food, or your group. You don't need a giant brain to understand. Big cat over there is bad. But here's the funny part. Standing upright caused problems, like a lot of problems. Back pain? Thank bipedalism. Bad knees? Thank bipedalism. Ankles that exploded because you slept slightly wrong? Well, thank you bipedalism. Even childbirth being extremely difficult? Well, also partly because of bipedalism. Because once we stood up, our pelvis narrowed to make walking more efficient, which meant the birth canal got smaller. At the exact same time, our brains were starting to get bigger. So now you have a species trying to squeeze a bigger head through a tiny, smaller hole. This is why human babies are born, well, kind of useless. Human babies are the most helpless things in nature. They came out basically half-baked like a potato with Wi-Fi. If human babies were born fully developed, they would never fit through the birth canal, so instead they came out early, squishy, and completely dependent for our years. All because some ancient relative decided standing up was a good move. So, upright walking gave us back pain, bad knees, and the most vulnerable babies in the animal kingdom, but it also worked out. For millions of years after Lucy, our ancestors stayed small-brained upright walkers. They walked on two legs, but weren't building rockets, just living their lives, walking around Africa with chimpanzee-sized brains for millions of years. And then gradually, starting around 2 million years ago, the brain began growing in our direct ancestors. Homo erectus, the brain had nearly doubled. Then Homo heidelbergensis, bigger still. Finally, by the time we show up, Homo sapiens, around 300,000 years ago, the brain had tripled from Lucy's size. That is the pattern. Stand first, then much later the explosion of human brain size. The upright posture wasn't the result of a big brain solving the universe. The upright posture was the opening act. The bipedal body was the foundation. Millions of years later, the brain caught up and turned that awkward upright body into the most dominant species on Earth. So, what's the recipe? Stand up, save energy, free your hands, see further, pay the price in back pain and helpless babies, then slowly feed your brain. That probably involved better diets, more meat, more calorie-dense food, eventually cooking, stronger social groups, and more cooperation, more tools, fire, social hunting, sharing knowledge, language, layer on layer. And here's the wild part. Bipedalism is the smallest piece of the story. This one tiny evolutionary choice, standing up, started a chain of events that eventually produced everything about us. It's like walking into a restaurant, ordering a small appetizer, and then a chef brings out a 12-course meal, a dessert tray, and somehow hands you the keys to the restaurants. That's what standing up did for our ancestors. Here's the funniest part. If you could talk to Lucy and explain this, that one day her descendants would walk on the moon, write symphonies, and argue strangers on the internet about whether the dress was blue or gold, she would have absolutely no idea what you were talking about. She just stood up to get some berries. And that changed everything. If you enjoyed learning that your ancestors were tiny upright gobblers who accidentally started a human story, drop a like and subscribe and tell me in the comments, which of those why we stood up theories do you actually buy?